This week on Inside the Headset, we are featuring Virginia Military Institute's head coach, Scott Wachenheim. Coach Wachenheim highlights the unique challenges of coaching during the pandemic, shares the importance of recruiting players that fit your program, and gives tips on how to turn a struggling football program around. Now, let's get inside the headset with Coach Wachenheim.
Coach Walk, how are you doing? Happy to have you here.
Great to be here. Doing great.
Well, I'm sure you're doing great, Coach. You recently won the AFCA FCS Coach of the Year award after leading VMI to an outstanding season, first SoCon championship since 1977, and its first FCS playoff bid in school history, which is huge. On top of all the craziness of the last, year and a half or so, dealing with COVID and players not being available, things like that. What has this experience this last year been like for you, your staff, and your players?
It's been a great experience, and the staff and players just showed great resiliency, and really took over our one of our core values of grit. We had a saying that we stole from Kevin Elko. So what, now what, or now what, so what? So what, now what? And, it really started in August when we were all back getting ready to play. And, Dr. Dials came in and told us we couldn't play, that the SoCon wasn't going to compete, and our kids all had to go home. And we came back and we had fall ball, 15 practices of fall ball. And then we came back in January, and it was cold, and we had COVID go through our team, but our kids just kept fighting, and we got ourselves ready to play. Our first game was canceled against the University of Tennessee Chattanooga for COVID concerns at their school, and we found a way to win the Furman game on a last-second fumble recovery, and kids just kept finding a way, whether we were coming from behind or holding on to a lead, and just a tremendously rewarding season. I couldn't be prouder of my players and my coaching staff. I thought they did an outstanding job handling everything that came their way.
That's awesome. So what? Now what? That's a great motto to have, especially in a year like this. And where you, like you said, you're getting ready to play a game, and next thing you know, the game's not there or the season's not there, and you just have to keep on keeping on. That's amazing. Now, I'm sure a place that you probably had the personal experience of learning, maybe not that exact quote, but something along those lines, is you attended the Air Force Academy and later served as an officer in the Air Force before you're beginning your coaching career. How have you applied, some of the lessons that you learned in the military and let it apply to your coaching style, how you teach those young men, obviously at a military institution? What are some of those things that really stand out to you?
The biggest thing that I think you learn in the military is efficient. Be efficient with your time. At the Air Force Academy, you're taking 21 hours a semester. You're playing Division I football. Plus, you have military leadership training that you're going through. So you learn how to be very efficient with your time. You learn how to simplify your life. And I think the military does that. And, you wear a uniform every day. You have the same haircut your entire life. And there's ways to simplify and streamline your life. And I think that carries over to being a head football coach. One of the biggest things that I had to learn how to deal with is having multiple boxes open at the same time as a head coach. You're dealing with offensive problems, defensive problems, special teams opportunities, team travel, recruiting, scholarship, budget stuff, administration, wanting your time, and academics. And so I think you have to learn how to handle multiple things at once. And I think the military helped me learn how to deal with that and to try and streamline and make things more efficient.
Absolutely. Our executive director, which I'm sure you're aware of, at one point was the head coach at the United States Military Academy at West Point. And I actually had the opportunity to go up there and play for him for one season before I transferred out. And I, to this day, have probably said on this podcast over the years that was one of the most valuable experiences I've ever had. Even though I didn't stick out the full 4 years or go serve afterwards, it was just some really base lessons, like you said, just streamlining life, being efficient with your time, and being professional, and all those types of things hold with me to this day. Now, obviously, as I mentioned, I had that opportunity, and I am very aware of the requirements to get into some of these military schools. You're definitely faced with some unique things that you got to deal with in regards to getting a kid that's not only academically eligible, but can come and play great football for you, can come and be a great leader, be be a great member of the military and also, have all of the physical specimens in place to be able to come and do that. What characteristics does your staff look for in potential players, and how have you been successful in piecing together, in your words, the most talented team you've ever had at VMI?
It first starts with evaluating the character of the young men you're recruiting. And, I think the high school coaches are the biggest help that way. In the social media era, I think a lot of people have gotten away from that, but we recruit the state of Virginia very hard. We like to really find out what not only the kid's head coach thinks about him, but what other coaches in the area think about him. Have they seen him at a track meet? Have they, when they were studying tape, were they impressed? Were they impressed with the way he carried himself on the field? The second thing at VMI, we got to have guys who can academically handle the academic rigors at VMI. We're a top 50 academic school. School is not easy. There's no easy majors. We only have 14 of them. And, our players, when they come here, have to be ready to compete to be the very best they can be in the classroom. So that's something we look at. Lastly, we got to have a football player that's good enough to win the SoCon championship. And we understand that a lot of players are going to tell us no because they're not looking forward to the military leadership opportunity that VMI provides. And so we're going to just keep working at it and never back off on. There's a certain level of talent that we need to be successful at VMI. And then to search for other things that maybe a young man provides. Does he provide length? Does he provide quickness? Does he have unbelievable hands and catches every ball thrown to him? Does he fit our unique style of defense that we can get away with a little bit shorter defensive lineman? So there's some things in our schematics that we can recruit a different player that maybe somebody else in a different scheme would not find valuable. And that's why we run the defense we do, and that's why we run the offense we do, because there's more players available that can be successful in those styles that we play.
Absolutely, Coach. And you said something that for me is extremely important. I know you mentioned that high school coach, and I think in this day and age, with as you mentioned, the social media, the third party guys that are, representing the high school players, the 7-on-7 leagues, just keeping those high school coaches involved and making sure that you have great relationships with them. I think that's always huge and important for all of our listeners to hear. So I appreciate you mentioning that. Now, after such a successful season, I hate starting this question off like that. You rewind back a few years ago. You just started at VMI. You posted a 0-11 record, and you flash forward just into this moment right here. You're hoisting the championship trophy in one of the toughest conferences in the country for the FCS football, and I'm sure there was a ton of lessons in that 0-11 season, and sometimes those are, not in the moment the best seasons, but in hindsight, those can be some of the best years for your growth as a head coach in a program. What has that journey been like from that point to this point? Specifically, some of the challenges that you found out in that year and how you overcame those, and put yourself and the team in a position there and now.
Well, it started at my opening press conference. When I was hired, one of the things I said is, hey, we're going to turn this program around, but we got to be patient, and it could take up to 5 to 6 years to see that. And it took us 5 to 6 years to really turn the program around. Specifically in the 0-11 year, I'm, number one, thankful to the administration showing faith in me and my staff to retain us, because that was definitely an option they had, but they were very confident that we had the program on the right course. They saw improved character of the team and improved work ethic and improved academic performance and improved off the field. And I believe the administration knew that would show up with on-field results sooner rather than later. After the 0-11 season, the first thing I had to do was take a look at myself. I wasn't happy with the job I was doing as a head football coach. I wanted to do a better job. And so I went on researching on how to be a better head football coach, and I looked at emotional intelligence, and I also looked at the culture of the football team. And I read a couple books on emotional intelligence and learned that, I had to be a better delegator of duties, that, I had specific roles as a head coach, and I was trying to do too much, and I had to trust my assistants more. And then I also learned that, my communications to the team is felt by the whole team. And impacts the whole team. And, I was a longtime offensive line coach, and, my method of coaching offensive linemen might not be effective to motivating a defensive back. So I looked at how I was talking to the team and what messages I was sending and how to do a better job from that. I read a book by Randy Jackson, Culture Defeats Strategy. He's a high school coach that had 4 state championships in Texas. And in the book, we always had culture. Bill McCartney and Ken Hatfield did a great job forming the culture that I used for our football team. But through reading Randy's book, I learned that in today's modern athlete, they have to be a part of defining the culture. So we went on a mission to do that with our football team, and I think that provided some huge basis for success. We then changed to 100% commitment to the air raid style of offense, which allows us to recruit slot receivers. I think it works at a military school, even though many people doubted it at the time, because, traditionally academies, including the Air Force Academy where I played, ran the triple option, the wishbone style of offense to be successful. But, Mike Leach said the air raid style closely resembled the triple option style attack, and I agree with him. Just instead of handing off the dive, we may throw the ball over the middle, and instead of pulling and pitching, we may throw a hitch out in the perimeter. So we're both designed to use all 53 1/3 yards of the field and horizontally and 30 yards vertically, and I think that fit us. And then defensively, we found a way in year 5 to fit what we needed to do in our league to win. The SoCon is primarily a run-dominant league, and we needed to stop the run. And in order to do that, we had to take some risks in defending the pass. But, our kids definitely responded to that, and Coach Clark and the staff did a great job of installing that defense. And then a big area that we really improved on was special teams. We recruited some kickers and punters and long snappers that have done a super job for us, and we instilled some systems that we think are versatile but hard to defend and scheme against by our opponents. So those are the steps we took after the 0-11 season. We saw a little bit of help in the 5-7 year with 2 losses being to FBS foes, Marshall and Army, and then this year the 6-2 season, winning the Southern Conference and playing JMU tough in the first round of the playoffs.
Coach, that was a lot to take in there, and especially speaking to a head football coach, that's awesome to hear you say that. Obviously the goal of the American Football Coaches Association is to provide, top tier, top quality education to our coaches. And oftentimes, even myself, I'm in charge of that. I'm always in the mind of trying to better the young coaches. And it's great to see a head ball coach who's well accomplished in his career, not only just in football, but your military service, everything that you've done. You sat down and said, how can I get better? And went and found the resources and dedicated yourself to your professional growth. And so for a professional growth organization, that means a lot to hear that. That's awesome, Coach. Now, before I let you go here, what advice, wisdom, what information would you give to any coaches across the country that might be in similar situations as VMI, where you kind of have to, as you mentioned, think outside the box in terms of how you do things? What are some of the steps you've seen your program be successful in part of turning that program around? I know you kind of answered some of that there, but maybe if you can get some more very specific details to some coaches.
Yeah, definitely. Number one, seek wisdom. Wisdom first came from me, from my wife. My wife gives me a lot of support and then a lot of great advice. And then other coaches that respect in the league. Just in this pandemic, I reached out to Buddy Tevens because we weren't going to scrimmage his tackle as much, and he was ahead of the power curve at Dartmouth and how to prepare a team to tackle well. And so spent a lot of time on the phone with him and studying what they did at Dartmouth and Pat Fitzgerald at Northwestern as well. Of course, Bill McCartney, Ken Hatfield have had huge impacts on my life. Danny Rocco at Delaware really helped me out with the organization of the team, and we speak regularly. Also, Scott Abel at Davidson. I got to watch him when he was at Washington Lee, and a lot of our practices probably were more closely resembling a Division III as we look to get our team healthy to each and every game, week to week. And so a lot of lessons they would apply. So seek wisdom from people close to you. Don't be afraid to fail. Bill Parcells, said, to be a successful coach, you can't be afraid to go down in flames. And, the man who's not afraid of failure is definitely a difficult one to deal with. And so what I would say is don't be afraid to fail. And once you have your convictions, stick with them. And as a leader, don't be afraid to overpromise. As a leader, you got to create a positive vision that's just a little bit out of reach for your team and your coaches that you believe they can achieve, but it's going to be hard to do. And, I think that motivates them. Some people think under promise, over deliver. I just don't agree with that. I think you let it be known what you believe truly in your heart your team can accomplish if they're at their very, very best. And I think that's a huge thing to do. So those are the things that I would first say to the guys. But the last thing, stand firm in your faith. Whatever your faith is, I'm not here to preach on that. But whatever your faith is, stand firm in that. Understand why you believe what you believe, and you will be comforted through the tough times.
Coach, I'd love to play for you one day. That's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that with our coaches across the country that listen to the podcast. Before I let you go here, I would love for you to share your social media account, your Twitter account, so coaches can keep up with your journey. And if they had any follow-up questions, maybe they can reach you there.
Yeah, it's Coach S. Wach, W-A-C-H. That's my Twitter account. Facebook's under my name, Scott Wachenheim, and my Instagram is Coach Wach. I think it might be an underscore in there, but Coach _ W-A-C-H is my Instagram account. But sure, reach out to me there. I'll do that. If you want, send me an email with any questions. I'm more than willing to help any coach out. I've certainly been helped along the way, and I appreciate, all the coaches that were in my life that helped make me the man that I am.
Thanks so much, Coach, for sharing. We sure appreciate you. We'll make sure to link all those social media accounts in the show notes so coaches can easily find you. Once again, thanks and congratulations.
Awesome, man. And if you got any eligibility left, come play for us this year. We're the defending champions now, so we got a target on our back. We can use some help.
That's right, Coach. I appreciate it, man. All right, have a good one.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Inside the Headset. If you heard anything on this episode that you would like to learn more information about, head over to afcapodcast.com, where you can find every episode and all of the corresponding show notes. While you're there, take a second to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions for the show, please let us know by sending an email to podcast@afca.com. Make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter @InsideTheHeadset and tag it when you share each episode. You can stay up to date with all things AFCA by following the @WeAreAFCA Twitter account. Every episode of Inside the Headset can also be found on your favorite audio streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. If you are not currently a member of the AFCA, be sure to find us online at afca.com and apply to join over 10,000 NFL, college, and high school coaches from around the country who are striving to be the best they can be. With an AFCA membership, you gain invaluable access to the annual AFCA convention, the bi-monthly magazine, and the new and improved digital library, which contains thousands of videos and articles contributed by hundreds of current and former football coaches. You can also visit afcainsider.com to sign up for our free weekly email newsletter on the right-hand side of the screen. It comes out every Tuesday at lunch and is filled with great articles and stories written by many of the same coaches you hear on the podcast. It's geared to help you become a better coach tomorrow than you are today. Be sure to connect with me on Twitter @CoachMarioPrice, and remember, the AFCA is not just an annual convention. It is an association that continually promotes education, guidance, and networking. But it is also so much more than that. The AFCA is about celebrating the past and educating the future. It is about developing great coaches who will produce great teams and even better people. So invest in your skill set and impact today by engaging with the AFCA.